listening to Ridiculously Happy People Cast. If you want to live more kindly, more confidently, and more ridiculously happy, you are in the right place. I'm Sophia Lemon, and I am here today with Nikki Yo of the Ava Solution. How are you, Nikki?
I'm doing good. Some excitement over here. We just finished stage 1 of facelifting our main bathroom, which was basically just paint and new light fixtures, some new prints on the wall. I'm especially excited about this one that's like black and white, and it has 2 little piggies sitting in like old school wood lawn chairs. I'm in love. So it's been it took me probably like a week to 2 weeks to even do it, and our bathroom is not big, which is kind of sad. But I realized really quickly that the projects I could do in like a day now take me weeks because of little children in my way. So either way, it's a big win, and stage 2 will be covering up the ugly porcelain tiles with like some super new modern vinyl. So I'm excited when we can reach that, probably another couple weeks. It's my big
That's
update.
Exciting.
Yeah. It looks so much better. Like immediately I was like, oh, I love it. This is the best.
So is it just a facelift, or are you putting any new storage in there or anything? Because small bathrooms can be a storage nightmare.
Yeah, it's difficult. And especially too, like the bathroom at one point was redone. So our second floor is like the slanted ceiling. So they cut out into the bathroom to put up a full wall. And I'm like, you just lost so much space. So we're going to do like some wall shelves and things like that. But we're a little limited on the floor plan for good storage, unfortunately. Old houses.
That sucks.
Gotta love it. Yeah.
Old houses are beautiful, but also I really wonder how... Yeah. No storage, and I wonder how some people get their furniture into them.
Right? Like our staircase is not large, and I don't think we could, even if we desperately wanted to, get a king bed upstairs. It just would not happen. Not possible. No.
And I've seen those old houses that are just beautiful, and they look like they have lots of space on the outside, but then like you go upstairs and like it used to be 3 bedrooms, but they were 3 teeny tiny bedrooms, and they converted one of the bedrooms into like a master bedroom, which by the way has no ensuite because it's just you couldn't fit one in there, so they like took down a wall and now it's one enormous room, and the entire house is 2 bedrooms, and it's like, oh,
that's
okay,
literally my house. Yeah.
It's so hard. That's tough.
It definitely is. Not much room to grow.
No, but beautiful.
But beautiful. Yeah.
With character. With
exactly.
Character. Speaking of houses, we have a bunch of kids in the house right now.
Oh, yeah?
So Kevin's kids are with us right now, which is fantastic. And his daughter brought a friend with her who is very polite, and which is great. It's just nice. And so his daughter and his daughter's friend were camping last night in the yard, and they head out there and they're in the tent and everything. And I get home and I go to bed, and then it immediately starts thunderstorming. I'm like, I wonder how long this is going to last. But they were still out there this morning. So
good for them.
Well, yeah.
I would not have lasted. I've been like, well, that's a raindrop, so that's me.
There was a lot of excitement about it last night because my parents are standing in the yard with one of their friends, and Kevin has set up the tent, and Bruce is inside. Like, what in the heck is going on? And so the girls go outside and start heading towards the tent, and Bruce is just like, for people who don't know, Bruce is my dog, who is a Great Pyrenees mix and a great guardian dog, but he's like, just standing at the door like, I have to inspect what is going on right now outside. And so the girls get halfway down the path to where the tent is, and we let Bruce out, and he beelines, goes right past the girls, gets up close to the tent, does like one of these, watch the YouTube video if you want to see what I'm doing. He's like, okay, no threat. Turns around, comes running back to see my parents and my parents' friend in the yard. He's like, hey, I have so many jobs when there's so much stuff going on. Anyway.
That is so funny. Such a classic guardian dog. Oh my goodness.
He's a sweetheart. But yes, so there's tons of people in in the house. And so I am at the studio, although I will probably be reporting all episodes from the studio because the internet sucks in the country.
Yeah.
How is your internet access there?
I'm pretty good. We're right in town in Midland. So I think there's like a Rogers transformer right across the road from my house. So unless there's a big storm, we're usually pretty connected, which is nice.
Well, that's excellent.
Fortunate that way. Friends of ours live out in the country. Sorry, go ahead.
And not good internet in the country.
We can't even get a hold of him on the phone half the time. I'll be like, oh, well, he must be down in the bush. We'll call him next week.
Is that because of the internet or because he just doesn't want to have his phone on?
I think it's like a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. It's like a great excuse. Yeah.
That's awesome. For those who don't know, there were a bunch of fires in Canada, specifically Ontario, Quebec, Northern Ontario, Northern Quebec, which affected like this entire side of the continent. And it wasn't so bad where we live. In terms of smoke, like we could definitely see it and every once in a while smell it, but I certainly noticed it when the internet at home was not working because we are on wireless internet, which requires, I don't know, laser beams and stuff, which is certainly for the receiver to be in the direct line of sight of a tower. And apparently smoke particles interfere with, weird stuff, and I don't ever want to stand near a tower again. But anyway, wired internet is the best. Well, we wanted to do a bit more of an introduction. If you caught our first test episode preview of season 1 of the Ridiculously Happy People cast. We did a little bit of an overview of what this show is going to be about, but we wanted to dive a little bit deeper in this episode into who we are, how we came to be here, and also what this whole ridiculously happy thing is, because it's a thing. And so we're going to explain it today. But we're going to start with some introductions for the two of us, and we're going to start with Nikki. Because
awesome.
I don't want to go first.
Fair enough. So my name's Nikki O. I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom to 2 little girls, 1 and 3. Also a wife and a full-time business owner of the Ava Solution. I'm fortunate enough to be able to work with incredible people like you, Sophia, who keep me busy with variety of work, which keeps my days interesting as well as flexible enough that I can still show up for my kids in the way that I want to and the way that I need to. Ultimately, I'm an administrative support specialist, and I dedicate my career to making the lives of business owners easier and less stressful by handling the tiny tasks that pile up and get in the way of business owners being able to scale their business and focus on all the actual tasks that they need to do without filing paperwork and dealing with the tedious stuff. Ava, for me, came about as a bit of a necessity with the pandemic. Sophia, you know my story a little bit. I was on mat leave with my oldest daughter, and the company that I was working for closed from stresses from the pandemic, which a lot of businesses dealt with and unfortunately had to do. I went to a bunch of interviews coming off of my mat leave for jobs that just made me feel completely miserable. I had that constant barrage of comments like, oh, you have a daughter? Who's going to take care of her while you're working? Like, none of your business. That's who. Thanks so much for asking. It just was not. Wow. It was not great. Yeah, I was surprised I still have those comments in 2020, 2021. And you're not allowed to ask them anyway.
So I was just going to say, I don't think you're allowed to ask that.
No. It's, and I think my husband at the same time changed jobs a couple times, same thing like pandemic stresses, and did not get a single question about that. So that was frustrating for me, to say the least. I left one really bad interview, and they were ready to give me the job on the spot. And I was like, no, there's got to be a better way to do this. This is not going to work. So I'd done my undergrad at the University of Toronto with a major in English language and literature. and minors in history, women, and gender studies. So a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of research going on there. From there, I did a postgrad at Ryerson in publishing, and I spent about a decade jumping around in different professional industries, publishing, insurance, kind of everything in and out in between. And I realized how transferable those admin skills were, and that a lot of people are not type A and really struggle with maintaining their task list and to-do list and need that extra nudge or support, and even just to be able to say, okay, you do this and I can focus on this stuff. I was fortunate that this is, I guess, my silver lining with the pandemic, that virtual assistants really quickly emerged as this new burgeoning industry, that people were realizing you could work from anywhere and you could work with anyone, and you didn't have to hire full-time staff with benefits and paid vacation and paid sick days and all of these extra things that small business owners who are really just trying to meet their bottom line can't necessarily afford or don't need, right? So I was able to really niche in that way, which was awesome. And it helped me to settle my own fears of putting my 11-month-old daughter into daycare in a worldwide lockdown pandemic. That was scary for me as a first-time mom anyway. So being able to keep her home, I could bring in still an income that matched what I was making before I went on mat leave, which was very helpful. And then when I got pregnant with my second daughter, same thing. It was less of a concern that I didn't have to worry about, okay, what's going to happen next? This is a job that I already know I can do from home with my kids. And it was relaxing is almost a funny way of putting it. Like, it just really took the stress away from me, that it wasn't, okay, now what? I already had that plan and was moving along pretty quickly. So it's a win-win for me. I'm heading into my third year in business with my business partner, and we've got some really big ideas that we're working on behind the scenes that we're super excited about. And I just am very grateful each day that I get to do what I do, because not a lot of people have that luxury. And then outside of working on my business and my clients' businesses, I'm generally crafting. I'm a big crafter. So I do a lot of knitting, crocheting, sewing. I also do a lot of cooking and baking, and something that I've passed on to my oldest daughter, who loves being in the kitchen with me. And as she says, stir, stir, stir. So we get some good muffins and cookies baked up. And then, of course, we couldn't be in the kitchen without a dance party. So it's good times all around.
Love the dance parties.
They're the best. It's the best part.
My family makes fun of me for having Apple HomePods like everywhere in the house. And I will not dance in front of like human beings, but I will dance in front of the dogs, the cats, the birds.
Absolutely.
Like, while I'm making some food, while I'm waiting for my computer to do something that is zapping a whole lot of its, memory, and it's running really slowly. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We have a reasonably similar background in terms of school, which is pretty entertaining. Reasonably. And also, I am super grateful that you do what you do.
Thank you.
It is remarkably difficult to find someone to work with that you trust to take over those behind the scenes things that you don't really need to be doing, but like you want things to be happening like in your own brand voice and all of that delightful stuff. And it can be difficult to teach people how to do that, but you naturally have an upbeat personality, which is fantastic. And I have looked into virtual assistants before, and when you look it up, it's always an agency, and it's, people working for the agency. And do you really know if that person's going to be around for a long time, or is that person doing that job for 6 months and then you're going to be paired with someone else? And it just didn't ever make sense for me. And then I met you.
Aww.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
You have a very calming personality. You handle phone calls like a champ. Whenever I go to like put out a fire in quotation marks, which seems to have landed in my email, I will sometimes respond, and then I will look closer and see that you have already responded to them. And I'm like, oh.
Check that off the list.
Yes. And also, you leave very funny notes for me in some of my tasks, which I love, which is great because while you and I are both in businesses that we love doing, there's always, always, always going to be components of running a business that you don't like. There's just always stuff that's not great that you don't want to deal with. So, it's way more fun to laugh about that stuff than to let it get you down.
Absolutely.
And we will be talking a whole bunch about virtual assistants and how to find and hire and, all of that delightful stuff in subsequent seasons. But was there anything else that you wanted to add about yourself? You also have a dog. I feel like you should tell us about your dog.
I do have a dog. He's also a guardian dog. He's a Maremma sheepdog, which for most people don't know what he is. He looks very similar to a white retriever, but he, temperament-wise, is essentially a Great Pyrenees. They're the same dogs, just from different regions. We are fortunate that he's a little bit smaller, so I don't have 140 pounds running at me. It's only 85 pounds. But we got him about 6 months after he moved into our house, so he's coming up on 5. And he immediately imprinted on our kids as we brought them home each time from the hospital. Just kind of completely decides that they're now his flock and he's going to guard them. He follows them everywhere, sleeps right in front of their door at night. He's very, very handsome, very loving, and a big, big suck. And we, kind of funny about your backyard camping story. Our daughter has a little play tent, so we set it up in the backyard over the weekend, and she wanted to camp out, and then the rain came in, so we did not. But he just set up shop right beside the tent and was not leaving until we all came in the house. So he's very much a protector in that way. But he's great. He's a big suck. He's currently hanging out with them right now.
Oh, good. Protecting them from grandma and grandpa.
Yes. Heaven forbid, eh?
Oh, my goodness. And if you haven't said it already, what is his name?
His name is Kane.
That's a good one.
I found out, it is a good one. So my husband was not a dog person originally, and I had to do a lot of convincing to get him to even get on board with the dog. He travels a lot for work, so I was like, listen, you can travel all you want, but I need a dog then. I need the company. I want the security. We live in a new town, whatever. So that won him over on my side. But he got to choose the dog and he got to essentially pick the final name. So we narrowed down breeds. We did a lot of research. He was like, no, this is a dog I can take to work with me. He can come out in the bush with me. This is the dog. And I'm like, yeah, he's great. Let's do it. So then we're spitballing names the night before we go to pick him up. And, we had 3 or 4 lists, and again, he didn't want the dog, so he gets the final say, your dog, your name, whatever. I just want a dog. I don't care. Just give me the dog. Yeah. So he picks Kane. And I'm like, okay, that's a super cool name. I really like it. That's awesome. Perfect dog name, short and sweet, to the point. Perfect. Well, then we get him home, we name him. A couple weeks later, he lets it slide to me that he's actually named after a WWE wrestler from the 90s. That's
of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We were at the dog park one time and this guy around our age was like, oh, the wrestler? I'm like, okay, so this is a thing. Okay, great.
And were you like, what?
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? So they had a good laugh. I'm like, oh, pulled one over. Great.
That's funny.
But yeah,
for anyone who is thinking about getting a dog, I honestly strongly suggest the guardian dog breeds. I have not had one before Bruce. I mean, we had mastiffs, but they're a little bit more just lazy. But yeah, the guardian dog breeds are super cool, but you need to make sure that you're getting one with the right temperament, because if you want to snuggle with them, there's very specific ones that you have to get. And I had no idea. When we got Bruce, he's a sweetheart, and we knew that he was going to be an independent dog and not listen, but he doesn't listen. And and all of that delightful stuff. But I did not realize how much of a big giant baby he would be until I was looking at, just out of curiosity, other guardian dog breeds, and they're all like, aloof, standoffish, like don't want to like snuggle with you or anything. And then I'm like, okay, I look at the Pyrenees and it's like lovey-dovey, and I'm like, that is
that's my dog. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I so agree. I've had other dogs before, other dog breeds, and I would never get anything other than a guardian going forward. It's a whole, like, it's a lot of work to train them. I mean, with any dog, but they're, like I said, they're so independent. They make their own rules. They're bred to like run their own show. So like it's a power struggle for sure. But once they're trained, like, it's the best dog I've ever had in my life. Like like this dog walks himself off leash, if he gets out, he takes himself for a lap of the block and then comes home. Like there's It's the funniest thing. Yeah, no, they're incredible. He's part Akbash, which is the guardian dog that's usually very standoffish and like indifferent to people. So we were a little nervous about that, but he's definitely more Maremma. So he just, love to love.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay. I guess I should share a little bit about me. All right. So I am Sophia Lemon, and I photograph ridiculously happy people, hence the name of the podcast. And we will get to that in a little bit. People ask me why I got into photography. And the truth is, in high school, I was a giant nerd, and I was building websites on like GeoCities and all of that fun stuff, if anyone remembers what in the heck that was. And I was also extremely stubborn, and I wanted to use photos, but I did not want to use other people's photos. So I had to learn how to take photos. And long story short, I liked it. I ended up going to college for photography at Fanshawe for 2 years, and then went, I can't make a living doing this. So I went to Western for media information and technoculture, and also studied women's studies. So there's a little similarness. So I was doing a minor in women's studies, and then halfway through my second year, I was like, I cannot do any more school. So I finished my degree in 3 years with my major in media information and technoculture, and with just a whole bunch of women's studies classes. Yes. So I started my business in 2010 when I was in university. And then when I graduated, I came home, I got a job at a local insurance company as their marketing coordinator. And it was fantastic because, I mean, communications was a big part of my degree, and I'm just fascinated by that stuff. So I really took the reins on like updating their website, and their marketing was not handled well previously to me being there because they just didn't have someone in marketing. They just had staff who I guess would call the arena and ask for an ad on their boards, like the boards around the ice rink. So that sort of thing. So I was, putting a lot of effort into getting their marketing rolling, and about 6 months into being there, the president pulled me aside and said, we think you've done enough for like the marketing stuff, and we'd really like you to start answering phones. And okay, so Nikki's nodding, and I am not good at answering phones. Nikki knows this because I do not answer the phone. If my phone rings and I do not know exactly who is calling me and exactly why they are calling me, and I am ready to answer that phone call, meaning it is not Kevin or my mother, pretty much. If my dad calls, I will answer. But if it's not an immediate family member, I'm probably not going to answer the phone. I'm going to let it go to voicemail. And then Nikki's going to listen to it. I'm going to tell me what it is. Yes, exactly. I kind of answer the phone a little bit like, like bring, hello. So me answering phones was not great. And while I was at that company, also, my photography business took a big hit. So I was photographing a few weddings a season while I was in university. And the number of weddings per year that I was photographing when I was working at the insurance company dropped significantly because guess what? Working 8:30 to 5 days a week takes up a lot of your time. And then outside of that, you might be a little bit tired. I don't know. I was. So
Crazy.
I thought it was amazing that I was like running errands on a Saturday. Like everyone looks so forward to their weekend. And then on Saturday, you're running errands because you need to catch up with all the stuff that you were doing through the week. So I was having a conversation with one of my teachers from Fanshawe. His name is Petro. I used to have a podcast with him called Double Exposure Show. He's awesome. So I was having a conversation with him about working at this place and photography and blah, blah, blah. And he said to me, Sophia, why can you not do photography full time? And I did not have a good answer for him. So I had to go into photography full time. So I left the insurance company and I went into photography full time. And that is how I got here.
Awesome.
So then we get into this whole ridiculously happy stuff, I guess. And truthfully, when I started my business, it's just my name, just Sophia Lemon. It's not Sophia Lemon Photography. It's not photography by Sophia Lemon. It's just Sophia Lemon. And then I had a tagline. I just made it up. It was photography for ridiculously happy people. And I slapped it on a logo of a camera with a lemon as the aperture in the middle of it. And at some point, I had my best friend from college, Benjamin Edward, paint it because he's an awesome graphic artist and painter. And I liked his stuff, so I had him paint it for me. And I put it on to signs and stuff. It was going to trade shows, and people would periodically stop and go, oh, ha, that's funny. I like that. That's cool. But what I have noticed as time has gone by is how much more sense the tagline and the logo makes for my business than it did when I originally created it. So I don't know, maybe I'm psychic or something. I'm not. But I basically made the perfect logo and tagline for me. And I guess I will try to explain why. So when I was in college, we had all sorts of classes on like, how to present your business, blah, blah, blah. Like we were told by one of our teachers, in your portfolio, show the photos of the most conventionally good-looking people that you work with, because those good-looking people will make other people think that they can look that good-looking if they work with you. And I thought that was crap. I thought that was crap at the time, and it is definitely still crap. I can't believe that that was the advice that people gave. I just don't believe that photography is about being picture perfect. And I have noticed that a lot of photographers, especially wedding photographers, really position themselves as the elegant, luxurious, the black logo with the gold writing on it. Everything is clean and pristine, and I'm going to make your family look like you are the perfect family. And that is just not the reality of life. Life is messy and scary and sad and awful. And we can still be happy during all of those crummy moments in our lives. Like I work with a lot of parents with toddlers, and I'm sure you can identify with this, Nikki. Yep. And that you have some of those. They come to shoots stressed out, like super stressed, because they are terrified of how their child is going to behave. Like they feel some sort of embarrassment about not being able to wrangle their child, but that is like who their child is. And early on, I worked with a family in Grimsby, Ontario, and their 2-year-old, and this was a great lesson for me. 3 hours of shooting. They just wanted me to come over. We were going to hang out in their yard. They were making dinner for their family and their 2-year-old was just going to have free reign and do whatever the heck he wanted. And in the 3 hours that I was there, I think he threw 3 or 4 temper tantrums where he was screaming, crying, and would immediately go running to one of his parents for comfort. And I took lots of crying photos and learned that toddlers will cry for about 5 seconds and then they're done and they'll forget about it and go back to whatever they're doing. So I included a bunch of those crying photos and the snuggling photos in the proofs that I sent along to them. And a lot of what they ordered to put in their home were crying photos because that was just the reality of life.
Yep. No, it's
which
so
has
true.
remained the case. And a lot of the women that I work with, for example, and we're going to talk about this in a later episode soon, hate having their photo taken, and usually hate having their photo taken because someone at some point told them that they are not photogenic, which is not the case ever. But if you're having a bad time with your photographer and feeling self-conscious, you're not going to like your photos. But if you're having a good time, you know, like with your family and friends and laughing and having a hoot. Like, when was the last time you were laughing with your friends and your friend said to you, "You look awful"?
Yeah. You need some new friends.
Yeah. Exactly. When you're having a good time, you know, everyone thinks that you look great. Like, and so I've just found over the years, as I have gotten wiser, that this whole ridiculously happy thing makes a heck of a lot more sense. That, you know, we're going to go through some ridiculousness in life, and we can still be happy. We can be realistic about our lives. And so I want to just give everyone a heads up that, again, Nikki and I are not experts in happiness.
No.
We are normal human beings. That would be nice. We are normal human beings who deal with shit on a regular basis. So, what is ridiculously happy then? So, I have made some notes and I'm just going to read them because I just cannot remember everything. So, ridiculously happy is inclusive, and that does not just mean by heritage, by sexual orientation, gender identity, body shape. It includes your self-esteem and that of your family, your financial status, all of that delightful stuff. Really don't need anything to be ridiculously happy except self-awareness. Life is not perfect ever. Life is messy, stressful, scary, sad, but we can be genuinely happy during all of that ridiculous crap. And I did want to share one story from my clients because this is like quite possibly one of the funniest stories I have heard from one of the couples that I photographed. And it's a long one, sort of. I ask every couple for ridiculous stories of their time together because everyone has it. This story is about Sarah and Doug. And I've shared this story before on my website, you know, in videos and stuff, but this is just awesome. Okay, so basically, Sarah and Doug met at the University of Guelph. And Sarah was invited to a party at Doug's dorm building, and she met him when she was sitting on his bed, and he informed her that she was sitting on his bed. And they had a wonderful conversation, and they immediately hit it off. At least that's what Sarah says. Because Doug couldn't remember her name for the longest time. He thought she was super cute, but could not remember her name. So he was terrified to speak to her. To the point that when we were doing their engagement photos at the University of Guelph, close to that dorm building, we're taking photos in this like big alleyway. And we're just standing there, and Doug just goes, "I hid in this alleyway once because I saw you." I saw you and I was too afraid to talk to you, so I ran and hid in this alley. And she goes, "I didn't know that."
That is so cute.
It was flippin' adorable. But that is not the ridiculous part of the story. So after they graduated, they went on a grad trip together, super romantic grad trip to Thailand. And they were glamping in Laos. And while they're glamping in this, well, tent, like a nice tent, Sarah got up to go to the washroom at one point, and there was a scorpion near the toilet. So Doug was all like, no, no, you cannot just go to the bathroom near a scorpion. And he stayed up all night with a flashlight, making sure that they were not attacked.
Aww.
Scorpion. Okay. The ridiculous part is still coming. Very cute. Yes, very cute.
Gets better.
So the next day, they went on a river cruise, 2-hour river cruise, to the, I'm going to pronounce all of this stuff totally wrong, by the way, but the Pak-U Caves, which is a super holy site. So these caves, there's apparently thousands of Buddha statues. It is visited by just thousands of people. Possibly more than thousands. I don't know. But anyway, I've never been there. Okay. So as they are in this super holy Buddha, like Buddhist cave with all these other tourists, this is when the sleep deprivation and the seasickness and the sunstroke hit Douglas. And right in front of an elderly Lao woman who was taking donations for the caves, Doug proceeded to throw up all over the cave.
Oh, no.
Yes. But they still got married.
They still got married.
And what I love about this story in particular is that they just like, when they talk about these things, like Doug not remembering her name for the longest time, like they just laugh together. They're super cute. Like, just, what are you going to do? I threw up in, in a holy cave.
That's life.
It is life. That happens. Happens all the time. Oh my goodness. Nikki, what would you like to say about ridiculously happy stuff?
I love that it's like just such everyday stuff that leaves this impact. Like a story like that to anyone else is like, oh my god, this guy threw up everywhere, what a mess. But to them it's like, of course this happened, and like that's all you can do is just kind of laugh. And I think it's the cutest. It all makes for a great story, right? And I love those little things. Those are probably my favorite. My little thing that happened last night was we have been, lovingly neglecting, we'll say, our vegetable garden this year because it's been a lot. But we are in a really big harvest right now, which is awesome because now we're into August. So last night we had a big chopped salad for dinner with peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers, and we did grilled green beans and grilled zucchinis and green onions, and almost every single thing was out of our garden, which was awesome. So we're sitting there eating dinner and I'm like, look at this stuff that we grew. This is so cool. So it's a lot of work that goes into the planting and the tending of the garden, but then I got to eat a salad that I grew completely and went out. I was like, you know what? I want some beans in my salad. So I went out my back door and I picked beans out of my garden and saw this ginormous zucchini, like literally this big on my zucchini plant, and got it going. And it was awesome. Very exciting.
Just out of curiosity, do you guys have like a lot of bees in your area right now?
Not really. Like, no more than any other year. I don't think I've seen more than like maybe 10 all summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have, the reason I ask is because the farmers around where I live have been going to town with bringing in bees. And everything is just growing like mad. Like the foliage is just intense this year. And my parents also have vegetable gardens. And Kevin pulled a beet out of the ground the other day. Are you ready for this? That was this big.
That is crazy. Oh my god. I thought, like, we are growing beets as well, and we pulled some last week for dinner, and like they are the size of like small yams. Like Easily, like, and they
That's
were
big.
long, they were weird, and I'm like, that's a big
that is
beet, but
weird.
like that is huge. And we do tomatoes every year because I do sauce in the fall, and we always have a good crop of tomatoes, but the plants themselves this year are like this big around, like they are ginormous, and like some of them are just like we've given up on trying to keep them propped up, so they're just basically tomato bushes at this point because we can't hold them up any longer. It's crazy.
Are you going to have to make sauce?
Oh yes. Oh yes. I usually what I do is like as the Romas harvest, I freeze them and then I can do it all in one day as opposed to little bits at a time. So
Excellent.
I collect them in bags in my deep freeze, and then usually about like November, I spend a weekend boiling them all down and adding all my stuff and taste testing with my husband and my kids. Yeah, it's a process though. Like it's delicious, but like what an ordeal to do it.
I know. This is why I don't make things. And also because whenever I try to make anything like that, it just doesn't turn out right. Like Kevin and I tried to make hummus once and I followed the instructions and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. And I'm fine with it because I make very good cookies. And I can make very good potatoes. Yeah. I can make like chicken and potatoes and stuff like that. That I will survive on that stuff.
Exactly.
But yeah, skill and patience to make like sauces and stuff is like impressive.
It's a lot sometimes.
Especially when you're teaching a child. Although if you are starting this young, like they'll be able to cook for you like in 2 years.
That's what I'm thinking, right? Yeah, exactly. I'm setting myself up for ease down the line.
It's true. And also presumably at some point, yeah. It's true.
She'll be able to take care of herself eventually, which is great.
That's exactly what I was going to say. At some point she's going to move out, and I really fear for a lot of people these days.
Yeah. I remember when I went on my university tour, and so I'm like 17-ish, and right from the get-go they separated the parents and the students and the kids. And my mom told me afterwards, like they sat all the parents down, they're like, listen, like if your kids are not self-sufficient, they have to be. You've got 2 months, like get your stuff in gear. Because when we have issues, like we are not calling to talk to you. We're calling to talk to your 18-year-old who's now an adult and in charge of their own education. And you're viewing the residents, and your kids can't even make boxed mac and cheese. And my mom said like this one mother started like sobbing because she's like, her son doesn't even know how to do laundry. So, and you're like, well, you got 2 months, like it's go time basically. And it's hard to think that like, and I know people like that. I went to school with people like that. I know people now that like don't have those life skills because someone always did it for them, and it doesn't set you up for very good places. It's hard.
It is true. It is true.
Yeah.
There's a lot behind adulting, and I have to be honest with you, whenever I like do the dishes or do the laundry, like there's like instant gratification, like I'm an adult.
Yeah, look what I just did. Check it out.
Which I have been for a while, but still, doing the laundry really makes you feel like an adult. Now, the only thing I don't like about the laundry is you do it and then you fold all of it and you put it away, only to immediately get it dirty again.
Yeah. Yeah, I struggle with that one, especially with the kids. I'm like, I just washed all of your clothes. Everything's put away, and now the hamper is full again. It's been 2 days. How does that happen? Like, I can't. It's constant. Tiny socks to fold those. It's a lot.
Oh my goodness. Well, Kevin's kids are 13 and 14. And I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'm kind of glad that they're at this age where, like, when I came into their life, they had already transitioned into the period of wanting to wear the same clothes over and over and over and over again. So there wasn't like a lot of, volume of clothing to wash. Now, you do have to remind them that they should change and we should do the laundry, but that is an okay problem in my eyes.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking maybe we should share how we met, since we haven't said that yet. Basically, we met in the same networking group. You know what is funny about this story? I was actually born in Tiny Township, and yes, that is a place. And yes, when I went to get my passport, the woman at the desk had questions about the tiny because my birth certificate says place of birth, tiny.
Tiny.
Not Tiny Township, just tiny. So I was born in Tiny. I lived in a place called Coldwater. Yes, these are real places. Lived there for 2 years, moved to the Owen Sound area, which is where I am now. And a few years ago, met a guy who happened to live in Tiny and then ended up moving back there and was a part of a networking group called BNI, and we will talk about BNI and networking at some point in the future. So I was a part of BNI and a member of a BNI chapter in Collingwood, and also a director consultant with a couple of other chapters, so where I just help them out. And so one of my chapters was BNI Georgian Bay Achievers, which is in Midland. And that is where I met Nikki,
Mm-hmm.
who joined the chapter.
I did. And I think I remember my first meeting that I attended as a guest, you were on as director consultant. And it was almost like laughable in that your advice for the chapter that week was to look at outsourcing and virtual assistants. And I was like, I am here as a guest, as a virtual assistant. it was had to be fate. It was hilarious. I was like, I'm right here. Hi.
Yeah. Thank goodness. That's I have arrived. And I really liked your vibe. And then I was all like, I need help because I'm doing things that I don't need to do. And in walks Nikki.
Big old halo sign right here.
Exactly. And so we work together, and it's awesome. Fantastic.
It is.
Oh my goodness. Okay. What else do you want to share today for this episode?
That's a good question. I feel like I always have like a million balls in the air on the go. Try to carve out like time in each day for myself, and I'm like, I'm going to do a project, and then my project is not a project that can be done in an hour, and then I deal with like the frustration of staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning to do a project that I don't need to be doing.
Don't do that.
And then my kids are up all night, and then they're up for the day at 5:30, and it's interesting. It's interesting. Lack of my own personal time management skills when I do time management for everybody else.
Well, that's how it works.
Yeah.
You do all of the stuff for other people. And then you don't have time to do the stuff for yourself, which is basically the premise for this entire podcast.
Yeah.
Remember that whole self-awareness thing that I mentioned?
Yes, that.
Recognizing that you are the most important person in your life and you need to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
Pretty important. So in addition to Nikki being a virtual assistant and myself being a photographer, I do have a lot of fun creating things for myself, such as one of my favorite products for my photography clients is calendars, because they get a calendar with like 12 pages of months with 12 photos on them, and it's just delightful, and they can keep them forever and write all over them, and they're awesome. Or like cards. I make cards for myself. Nikki has some of them somewhere in her office there. Thank you cards and condolence cards and just blank cards and all that fun stuff. And I'm also a giant nerd and create my own planners, like annual planners and templates and all that fun stuff, because that's just the dork that I am. And all of these things I offer in an Etsy shop, which is Ridiculously Happy People. Surprise, surprise. Go and check that stuff out. If you are interested in doing a little bit of self-care, maybe sending some gratitude to people, showing a little bit more of yourself, your happiest moments throughout your home. Or you want to get a little bit organized and like Nikki and put your own projects on your own calendar and make sure that you do them. I really thought that you were going to say that when you had time to like work on one of your projects, like I really thought you were going to say, and doesn't end up being a project, it ends up being an app. Which is pretty much my life.
Oh.
I have time to do something.
Let's work.
Now, I do want to ask you what your ridiculously happy moment is, and is it the vegetables?
It is the vegetables for today.
That's awesome.
And my daughters, both of them, but especially my 3-year-old, is a huge cucumber fan, which I feel like most kids like cucumbers. I love cucumbers. They're awesome. So our cucumbers are a little straggly this year. I don't know why. We put them in a different place in our garden, and I think they're not getting as much sun, but that doesn't stop her. She pulls them right off the vine and just will go to town on a ginormous homegrown cucumber. And she loves it. She's like happiest kid in the world, just walking around the yard with like a ginormous cucumber, just chomping away. And I'm like, well, I guess that's lunch. So perfect. That works for me.
That's awesome.
So just seeing the crazy little things that she does, or every day she wants to try. She wants to go outside and check on the tomatoes, and she'll take a cherry tomato, which are quite large today. And she wants to try them. She does not like tomatoes. Like, that's a hard no for her. And no, I try. Okay, go for it. And she pops it in her mouth, and then she takes a bite, and then it explodes in her mouth, and instantly spitting it. Yeah, and she's like rubbing it off her tongue, and like just losing it. And then she's got to go get another cucumber and eat the cucumber to wash the tomato out of her mouth, and it's a whole thing. But she's a good sport. Kind of turns the day around just seeing how silly she is, and everything's all exciting for her. Which is awesome.
Tomatoes are they're a powerful flavor.
Yeah.
Especially for kids. I can understand kids not loving tomatoes. Now, salsa. Does she like salsa? Because my goodness, do I ever love salsa. Oh.
She loves a good pico. Not necessarily a salsa, which I'm the same way. I'm not like a jarred salsa kind of girl, but I like a nice fresh pico. But you put some guac in front of her and she will eat the entire bowl. Avocado and chips is her jam.
Oh, I would too.
Yeah, it's hard to say no, right?
There is a really good Mexican place in Owen Sound. So if anyone is ever here, check out Casero Kitchen Table. They have the best burritos. Oh my goodness. And try their sneaky wings, 'cause they are gosh darn delicious. So I posted to Instagram asking what everyone's ridiculously happy moment of the weekend was. And I have a response from my mother.
Love moms.
I know. She's so supportive. My mother says that her ridiculously happy moment of the weekend was family times together.
Aww, that's so sweet.
My brother and his wife came up from London with their daughter and their dog. And their daughter is 3, and she is cute as heck. And she is going to give them a run for their money. But my mother got to take her to this enchanted forest, and I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it's basically a trail around here, and there's carved trees, and you can there's treasure chests and stuff where you can open it up, and you can take something if you put something in it. And I guess she just had a hoot of a time running around like a maniac. And
that's awesome. That's so much fun.
Oh yeah. For me, last night I had a ball game, and we had 8 people, and in slow pitch you play with 10 on the field. So that was a challenge. But I did hit a ball over the fence, which is nice because that is my first home run of the season.
Good for you.
I still got it. So that is my ridiculously happy moment. I am not getting old, even though I am. I am sore.
Paying for it today.
I'm sure we will talk about that in a coming episode. All right. Nikki, where can people find you?
I am on Instagram and Facebook at the Ava Solution, and on the internet, also at theavasolution.com. Nice and easy, simple, all the same. Yeah. Ready and
I'm
waiting.
gonna say it again. Branding.
Very fortunate.
Oh my goodness. All right. And I am Sophia Lemon, and I photograph ridiculously happy people. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and Etsy, either at my name, Sophia Lemon, or at ridiculously happy people. And if you know anyone who needs a little bit more sunshine in their day, please share this podcast with them. And also, if you like what you've heard so far, please rate and review. Make sure that you have subscribed to the show. And I also recommend that you check out the voice note option in our show notes, because you could leave us a little voice message and let us know what your ridiculously happy moment is, and maybe we will play it on the show. Who knows?
Awesome. Cool.
Make sure that you're following us on Instagram so you can catch our updates there and let us know what your ridiculously happy moments are. What else do I have to mention?
I think that's everything. You
Cool.
nailed it.
Excellent. Well, thank you for listening,
Cool.
everyone. And we will see you next time.